Primetime Premiere Edition. Where has Tanya been all these years? Hear from the makers themselves how this battle vixen has evolved throughout the decades. Command & Conquer 3, now Red Alert 3, but what does the future hold for the second decade of Command & Conquer? EALA General... Battlecast Primetime, sitting next to my co-commander, Raj Joshi. I'm David Silverman. So Raj, Red Alert 3, it's finally out.
I know, I'm so excited. I just watched Kasavin's hour-long command school. I need all the help I can get.
Anyway, it's time to get you pumped up for Red Alert 3. You threw down your $15, so let's get down to business.
We've got loads of in-game highlights for you, in addition to some exclusives you can't find anywhere else. Making Red Alert 3 has been quite a journey, and Battlecast Primetime has been there on location every step of the way. Let's take a look back at the road to Red Alert 3.
This is Jenny McCarthy. You're watching Battlecast Primetime on Command & Conquer TV.
You're logged in to Battlecast Primetime. Here for the E3 freebies is Raj Joshi. I'm David Silverman.
Battlecast Primetime is on location at the LA Convention Center, direct from the E3 show floor.
I am live here at the Red Alert 3 Community Summit. Red Knight!
Red Knight! Scorch226 asks, will there be snipers? This is Amir Rao from the floor of E3 with Ask the Developer. Keep those great questions coming. Back to you guys.
From first to last, as we recorded the legendary Hell March, Battlecast Primetime was on location when the track was recorded. Let's see what the band had to say about breathing life into a video game classic.
Gina Carano! Young is in trouble. Here comes Carano.
We're here at Skywalker Ranch, a place that has housed some of the greatest minds of all time, and the birthplace for theatrical scores, orchestral recordings, and today, the recording of the Red Alert 3 soundtrack.
Hello! You want to know about Red Alert 3, right?
That's right. There's lots of great things announced for the first time here in Leipzig. The world has not heard before about Red Alert 3, and amongst those, of course, is cooperative gameplay for RTS. First time for real-time strategy.
Here to fill us in on a little bit more about co-op is executive producer Chris Corey.
Woo!
CNC games have always been known for having this rich single-player experience with cinematics and a deep story. Red Alert 3 is no different. We've got that too, but now you can go online with one of your buddies and experience that in real time with him or her. I just love actually having one of my friends to play the campaign together, and it works really well.
The other big announcement you guys made this week at Leipzig was the talent. What can you tell us about that?
It's so great to finally be able to talk about this great collection of actors and actresses that we've brought in for Red Alert 3. By the way, we have quite a collection of beautiful women in there as well.
For Raj Joshi, I'm David Silverman, and we'll see you on the battlefield. Let's turn now to Mike Verdu, who is no stranger to video games or Command & Conquer. Some of you might remember Mike from his stint as executive producer on such hits as Battle for Middle-earth 2 and the 2007 Academy of Interactive Arts & Sciences Best Strategy Game of the Year, Command & Conquer 3 Tiberium Wars. So Mike, Are you ready to face the firing squad?
Absolutely, bring it on.
So the last time we spoke, you were actually the executive producer for the Command & Conquer franchise. Now you've been promoted, elevated to this godlike status to being the head of all of the EA Los Angeles game studios. Congratulations on that.
Well, thank you.
And are you still involved in the development process at all?
So when I was EP of the CNC games, I was deeply involved with the creative process, spending virtually all of my time with the team, deep in the details of making the game. Now it's a little different, but the good news is that we got over 100 people who absolutely love CNC. They're taking the franchise to a wonderful place. The work on Red Alert 3 is spectacular. And so I think of myself now sort of more like the godfather of CNC than actually deeply involved in the creative process.
Command & Conquer has come a long way, and this is only the beginning of the second decade. What else is in store for Command & Conquer?
The story of Command & Conquer just beginning. I mean, you can think of the 3 universes that we have with Red Alert, Tiberium, and the Generals universe. Future is a very bright one. There's lots of cool stuff to do yet.
So I'm obligated by the fans here. So I saw Command & Conquer 3, Tiberium Wars. I saw Red Alert 3, Generals 2.
I'm a big fan of Generals. I worked on that project. That's where I came into to RTS, where I came into EA. Don't be surprised to see another installment of Generals at some point in the future, but certainly nothing to talk about just yet.
It's a pretty big tease. You know, Red Alert 3, and even since the very first Command & Conquer game back in 1995, it introduced this concept of multiplayer gameplay. That concept of multiplayer gaming has continued all throughout the franchise. Red Alert 3, they're adding in the notion of cooperative gameplay. You know, do you see multiplayer kind of taking on new shape and form in the future of the franchise?
There's no question that online is transforming not just real-time strategy games, but gaming as a whole. And I'm proud that Command & Conquer pioneered on the online multiplayer. You think back to the original CNC and the fact that that really is what got multiplayer RTS gaming going. It's a way to get our players not just involved with the game, but involved socially, and it wouldn't surprise me to see the number of players increasing and the ways that people interact getting much richer and much deeper. So I think there's a lot of cool stuff to come.
Now, people who purchase the Premier Edition of Red Alert 3, you know, they have this piece of paper in their hands that says beta key to a future Command & Conquer game. Silver bullet question, Mike Verdu, what's the game?
So I am absolutely not going to say anything about it other than it's a really cool game, and online figures quite prominently in it.
All right, well, how about tell us, when will the beta code likely be active?
You can look for something in early 2009.
All right, Mike Verdu, thank you so much. Despite the fact that we couldn't get many secrets divulged from Mr. Verdu, one thing is for sure, this is definitely an exciting time to be a Command & Conquer fan. Still to come, we've got even more exclusive content to reveal. Members of the dev team battle it out for your amusement in a special edition of the Battlecast 5. And Command School Guru takes on lead multiplayer designer in the biggest main event yet, when Battlecast Primetime continues on Command & Conquer TV.
This is an historic day marking the swearing in of America's first female president.
You're going to be the most powerful person in the world.
Our embassy in Sangala just got word of an imminent coup.
The order came down from the president. We're rolling up all U.S. nationals.
You are now soldiers in the People's Freedom Army.
This fall, history will be made.
Our involvement could avert a genocide.
A new enemy will rise.
We'll take back our country.
And the only hope to stop him disappeared.
I think they're headed for the school.
Until now.
Jack, don't let them take my kids.
Go with them now.
Where are the children?
Ah! In the trees now, move!
My fellow citizens, we all share the responsibility. Our future depends on it.
Open the gate!
Kiefer Sutherland returns in 24.
Welcome back to Battlecast Primetime. I'm Raj Joshi.
Well, you know, Raj, we can't give the fans a proper Red Alert bonus episode without a little bit of Tanya. She's the pride and joy of the Allied forces and a fan favorite all the way back from Red Alert 1. Check out this Battlecast Primetime exclusive look into the making of Tanya in Birth of a Unit.
I think that the reason Tanya lives on more than anything else is the fans just simply demand it. They love the character, they love her moves, they love working through the missions with her, and at the end of the day, she's just tons of fun. When we did the first Command & Conquer, we loved the Commando character. We thought it would be seriously kick-ass if we could have some hot girl doing all those cool things and really make her very powerful, somebody that could really get in there and mess up the enemy. All of the casting for the original Red Alert was done by Joe Kukin, who played Kane for the Tiberian series, and we were looking for a girl that wasn't too pillowy, somebody that had a little bit of an edge to her. You could believe that she could kick some ass, and Lynn was just fantastic for that role. Moving the game from Red Alert 1 to Red Alert 2, we took it a little bit more seriously in Red Alert 1, and as we got toward the end of the product, we could really tell that this was going to be a little bit more B-movies, 50s feel, and so with Red Alert 2, we really leaned into that a lot and made it a lot of fun, and especially with Yuri's Revenge. So the character changed because it's a little bit over the top.
General, I hope the commander is up to speed because we don't have time to waste.
I'm sure Tanya has every confidence in you, Commander.
Oh, you're sure? Well, it's not your life that's on the line out here.
With Red Alert 2, Carrie Ward just really sort of jumped off the page for us more than anything else. When she acted the character out, we could tell that she would add that just a little bit of camp to make it lots of fun. I think especially with a role like Tanya Adams, it's really important to be able to keep that character fresh, keep it somebody that's in the local media, somebody that fans can identify with, especially new fans. So we have to make a trade-off. And in some cases we can keep the actor or actress. In other cases we have to go with the new one. At the end of the day, I think the fans really like the change. For Red Alert 3, Jenny McCarthy seems like the perfect choice. Just that much more believable, that much more entertaining to see in the game. We really played up that tension between Eva and Tanya. What they really are is they're jealous of each other, they're looking for attention. And of course it's kind of funny in that way because, you know, here he is, this commander who's going out doing these great things, winning these battles and all, and you got these two very different characters trying to vie for attention. One a little bit more by the book, one definitely the maverick and the rebel. And I think that actually adds a little bit more depth to the character because as an action star, having something emotional to react to really helps. If I had to choose between Jenny McCarthy, who's Tanya in Red Alert 3, or Carrie Wurr for Tanya in Red Alert 2, I'd have to decline the date because I'm a married man and I'd get killed if I even went anywhere near either one of them.
These next guys don't need any help from us because they made the game. We've got some special matchups in tonight's edition of the Battlecast Five. It's Jim Vasella as the Soviets versus Amira Jami as the Empire on Secret Shrine in this endgame match. Soviets fly their V4s across the map with twin blades to their enemy's back door. The Empire gets hammered by a war on two fronts as dreadnoughts start shelling the base from the shoreline. With no navy to speak of, the Empire decides to take on the V4s first with an impressive land-based assault. The King-Onis make short work of the Soviet artillery, but nothing can stop the rockets from leveling the Empire's base. With no retreat possible, the Empire marches on the Soviets, clearing the path with the psionic decimator that demolishes the entire camp. The Rocket Angels and Mechas move in, and it's bad news bears. Who will demolish the final structure? The Soviets? No! It's the King-Onis that blow the motherland to kingdom come.
It's Aaron Apoc Kaufman playing the Empire of the Rising Sun versus Keith Schaefer, the Allies. Wave Force artillery rolls into a base that's only defended by bushes. But those crafty allies use the chronosphere power to send that entire Empire regiment to the bottom of the sea. Unbelievable, ladies and gentlemen. The bushes actually turned out to be none other than Mirage tanks in disguise, and the Empire is once again sent packing. The Allies take to the air with sentry bombers ready to reenact Normandy. The bombers fly for the Empire, but wait, they're turning around. Those crafty allies were just clearing the fog of war to make way for the Proton Collider. Ooh, that's gotta hurt. With the Empire's entire defense eliminated, it's pretty easy to guess who takes home the gold on this one. Victory for Keith Schaefer and the Allies.
It's David Silverman as the Soviets versus Sam Bass as the Allies. David learns the hard way why you don't just spam your most impressive unit. The Allies shrink race some APOCs and plow through 30,000 credits with a few Guardian tanks. Oh, David, that's gotta hurt. The Allies move right along, leaving one frozen tank behind, which, oh, I love this part. But the convoy is waylaid by the Soviet vacuum imploder. Who needs Einstein when you've got that? The Allies are forced to rebuild as the Soviet Air Force charges forward. The Kirov fleet arrives, assisted by a Desolator airstrike that takes out those pesky Javelin soldiers. The Kirovs rain hell down from the skies in classic commie fashion. Soviets get the win.
It's Jill Donald Soviets versus Matt Ott's Empire of the Rising Sun on Battlebase Beta. Jill's super reactor goes Nova, demolishing half her structures, and the Soviet MCV is just barely able to escape. Jill wastes no time rebuilding though, takes to the water and is now safe from the Empire's land-based army. An airfield and a shipyard are already cranking out units before Mad Ott can respond with a fleet of his own. They meet practically no resistance. Where is Joe's army? While it's already on the warpath, burning its way to the Empire of the Rising Sun. The afterburners leave the Kirovs damaged before the fight even begins. But as the dreadnoughts rain down rockets and the flaming Kirov carcasses take out everything else, it looks like Jill is sitting pretty on another big win.
1. It's Drew Stauffer as the Soviets versus Jeremy Fiesel as the Allies. This early game sees some intense action as the Soviets blindly man-cannon an army right into a sea of Allied Javelin soldiers? Whoops! It's a festival of parachuting corpses that our boys in blue easily mop up. The Allies get busy cranking out dogs, IFVs, Mirage tanks, and Tanya. C4 coming through. Tanya swims right under the commies' noses and starts blowing up dreadnought after dreadnought. That's the cue. With no Navy, the ground forces move in and start demolishing the place. Tanya makes a suicide run, taking out the super reactor and half the base. But with no ground troops left, it's up to the Allied aircraft carrier to finish the job. Bullfrogs nail the drones. Can't they catch them all? No! Just enough make it through to destroy the Red Menace for good in honor of Tanya's brilliant sacrifice. Woo! She's one feisty vixen. Can't wait to see Jenny McCarthy as this badass.
Still to come, the Battle of the Gregs unfolds. Will it be Kasavin, the man who's been teaching you how to play CNC for a year now? Or the one who designed multiplayer and puts the B in balance, Greg Black? Black's biggest battle begins when we return on Command & Conquer TV.
Tonight, on the main event, while we always get along on camera, tensions rise when the tape stops rolling. Greg Black puts down his telestrator pen and harmonica to battle producer turned command school teacher, Greg Kasavin. This is the main event. Welcome to the main event. When you work at a game company, you better know how to play games, especially when you report on them here on Command & Conquer TV, myself excluded. Tonight, our two contenders have been working at EA for a combined of 8 years, and have been working on the online airwaves since Command & Conquer TV started.
Will it be Greg Black's recon and witty commentating that bring him the victory, or Greg Kasavin's textbook training that makes the grade?
Let's take an in-depth look at our two players tonight in Through the Eyes.
Greg Kasavin hails from the motherland itself, Moscow, Russia.
His opponent tonight is Greg Black, a California native born in Newport Beach.
These guys have been working with Red Alert 3 since its earliest stages when it was just a concept on paper. Let's see if their lengthy knowledge and background with games will help them in this battle.
To dissect every move of Greg and Greg, we've got Jason Bender and a new face for CNC TV, Red Alert designer Jeremy Fiesel. Welcome, guys.
Hey, Raj, how's it going? Well, today I'm not here with Greg Black as he's getting ready for his big battle, but we do have Jeremy Fiesel here today.
And it's great to be here commentating on the match of the century, and they're playing on my map, so obviously it's going to be an amazing battle.
Both of our players are familiar with the maps of Red Alert 3, obviously, but our fans are not, so it's time to bring you up to speed. So we now turn to Jeremy in the new Battleground Reconnaissance, Fiesel style.
Battle Base Beta is a 1 versus 1 map set on a high-tech island fortress. Players start with 2 ore nodes at their MCV and easy access to a 3rd ore node in the water directly behind them. Be careful, this expansion is an early target for the deadly terror drones and mighty Mecha Tengu. Each player also has an oil derrick on their half of the map, but don't get cocky just because it's close to your base. Dogs and bears move faster than your engineers, so be on the lookout for an ambush. The center of the map has higher ground, 2 expansion nodes, and 2 observation posts. With the smallest number of central combat lanes and the closest base-to-base distance of almost any map, you'll get an action-packed matchup from start to finish.
So who's gonna win? Jason, give us your totally unbiased pick of the match.
Well, as much as it pains me to say this, I'm going to have to go with Greg Black. Now, aside from his sheer stubborn tenacity, he also balanced the units, so wherever they're not balanced, he knows where that is, and he's going to use that to his advantage.
You know, for the same reasons, I'm going to have to go with Greg Kasavin. He's got that same level of tenacity, and he plays on the Xbox 360, so obviously he's got better play control.
Spotlight shines on my friend Raj Joshi. Put your money where your mouth is. Who are you going with?
Well, I gotta say, Greg, thank you for ripping Silverman a new one last time. Gonna go with the guy who's always got my back, Greg Black.
All right, well, Kasavin's been training me since day one. He was able to train me to kill you. Not like that really took too much effort. So I'm going with Greg Kasavin. Let's find out if it'll be the prof or the designer. Let the games begin. Tonight's matchup is between Greg Black and Command School host Greg Kasavin.
So today we have Platinum Black playing as Soviets versus Greg Kasavin playing as Allies. So what do you think, Jeremy? Does Greg Kasavin stand a snowball's chance of surviving this battle?
Well, as you can see, Greg Kasavin showing some really amazing harvesting micro there, that really hardcore ore mining.
Well, you know, you're fighting Platinum Black. It's going to be a long day, or it's going to be a very short fight. Either way, Black, you know, he knows all there is to know about these units. He invented a lot of their powers.
He also knows how to send them into base defenses to die pretty quickly, as we can see with this sickle. Oh, but he uses the jump to get out of the way just in time and save his sickle and continue to do some scouting.
Black is already in Kasavin's base, making it difficult for him. Considering Black is on offense, he's not doing so bad teching up. He's got a bunch of ground units mixed.
A couple of terror drones being created there. Now, terror drones are awesome during just about any point in the game, especially when your opponent is creating tanks. If he doesn't know about them, a couple of terror drones can take down a good number of tanks before being taken out themselves. And here we can see Greg Kasavin using the amazing strategy of freeze that terror drone while you get your ass kicked by a bullfrog.
Back in the base, same thing again, more of it.
Unfortunately, his cryocopters were taken down by those bullfrogs, and a small force of IFV and Guardian tanks is just no match for that mass of hammers. Kasavin has started producing infantry units. A single javelin can take out, if microed well, an impressive number of tanks.
There we see Platinum Black retreating, but not microing well enough. One of his units took the low road, got just far enough to die halfway home. Kasavin's base is still standing, and he has expanded a little bit out into the water, so it's not as bad as all that.
He's got more resources than Greg does, but he lost that important war factory, which is going to take him a while to build back up.
We got another battle here. It looks like another major attack from Greg Black coming on in.
And here we have Greg Black making yet another valiant effort to attack that multi-gunner turret with anti-air units.
No. So he's not attacking the turret, he's just driving by it. So he knows it's there, and yet he still insists on driving right past it.
Kasavin is also tech to tier 3 and has gone up and created a Tanya. Now, Tanya does not do very well against those sickles, or specifically anti-infantry, but she can take out tanks in one hit in the same way that she can take out buildings. Oh, but she's still alive. She somehow managed to make it out through the miraculous use of her Time Belt secondary ability.
There you have it. And so what does the Time Belt allow you to do?
She can regain her health and regain her previous position.
And kick Black's butt again.
Exactly. Or, at least in this case, run back into those sickles to get shot up. Now, unfortunately for Greg Black, Greg Kasavin has packed up his MCV and he's moving off south into the water.
So is this a desperation tactic?
In some cases, although in a lot of different games we've seen, people are able to easily come back from this.
So it looks like Black has taken over the central continent here.
And he's also using magnetic satellite to suck up his one remaining harvester.
Doesn't quite make it to the destroyers though, Kasavin's too quick for him.
As one of the slowest water units, obviously it was very difficult to grab.
So he's created another harvester. He's taking his modest, although versatile navy around the corner here. Let's see what he can do.
He's going to go for the land bombardment war, but what he's not seeing is that Greg Black is going for more air forces, and he's not making those excellent hydrofoils as anti-air units.
So here comes the aircraft carrier assault. He's going for the power first.
Now let's go back down to Greg Kasavin's base, where that Kirov is just absolutely messing things up, and a MagSat manages to grab.
And it grabbed the Kirov too.
Probably should have sent that in a different direction, although the big red shiny lights are very inviting.
I mean, come on, taking up your highest level units like that? What are you thinking, man? This carrier that's still standing after how long?
Ooh, but he lost his super power plant in an awesome explosion which took out what looks like the majority of his base. Is Greg Kasavin actually going to be able to come back from this?
And he's built up another Kirov. He's far enough ahead to come back from his own ridiculous mistake of sucking it up into the satellite.
And he's got one of those hydrofoils on him though too, preventing him from bombing that structure. Unfortunately, he's only got one hydrofoil to 2 Kirovs, and the math here just doesn't quite add up.
That's pretty rough. This is definitely what you want if you're in Greg Black's shoes. A couple of Kirovs and one building to blast.
And that's the end of it. With the final shipyard gone, the match goes to Greg Black. Wow, that was a great match. It really highlights a lot of the different focuses we put into Red Alert 3. You know, why don't we bring him down into the studio right now and get their reactions to this epic battle of the Gregs.
Greg Black, how did you pull off that victory?
Well, you know, it was a real small map, so I just went for the really fast rush, you know, as fast as I could. And fortunately, through my scouting, I was able to see that Greg was going Air Force early on, so I just built those bullfrogs to provide me with some cover, and, you know, I pretty much had the game from there.
And Greg, what was going through your mind when you saw that massive bullfrogs and hammer tanks sweeping towards your base through the center?
Well, I was like, I need to get to Tanya fast, and I did, and I think I scared him a little bit, but I made a few mistakes, especially early on, where I tried to get greedy with my engineers, and he took them both out with his bear, and I was on the ropes kind of from the beginning, and from then on it was trying to regain lost honor mode.
So it kind of occurred to me as I was destroying his base and he wasn't giving up, and I'm like, oh wait, you can move your base out onto the water. I really didn't have any answer for his naval fleet, so I was just trying to get those Kirovs up as soon as possible to take out his base before he took out mine.
Well, that was certainly an epic battle of the Gregs. Thanks for joining us, guys. David?
Congratulations, Greg. Well, that's all the time we've got. Thanks for picking up the Red Alert 3 Premier Edition, and as always, be sure to send us your comments to battlecast@ea.com. Don't forget to Battlecast your Red Alert 3 matches for a shot to be featured here on Battlecast Primetime. For Raj Joshi, I'm David Silverman, and we'll see you on the battlefield.
So, you think you've got what it takes to lead the crazy powerful armies of Red Alert 3, do you? If you want to start racking up those wins like nobody's business, you've come to the right place. Coming up, I'll show you some uber strategies for the Soviets, the Allies, and the Empire of the Rising Sun. Plus, I've got the lowdown on Red Alert 3's deadly commandos. You don't want to get on these girls' bad side. And I'll introduce you to the game's campaign experience as well, with a complete Soviet mission walkthrough. No worries, no spoilers. Now, before you dive on in, let me give you an introduction to the strategies, units, and essential mechanics of RA3 right here on Command School. You're watching the premiere edition of Command School. I'm Greg Kasavin. Congratulations, comrade, for if you're watching this, chances are you're a proud owner of the Red Alert 3 Premiere Edition. While sitting around waiting for the game to install, or maybe taking a breather between RA3's wild battles, please sit back and listen to some in-depth tips straight from the dev team. One of the twists in Red Alert 3 is that each faction has a unique base building mechanic, and the differences aren't just for show. The Allies are the closest to what you may be familiar with from previous Command & Conquer games. You build each structure within your construction yard, paying out its cost and credits over time. Once it's built, you can plant it down on the map and start using it immediately. However, in contrast to previous games, your base's build radius is only extended by your construction yard or your command hubs. And if you want to build more than one structure at a time, you'll need to crank out a second MCV. Unlike the Allies, you can place Soviet buildings on the map right away, though it still takes time for them to build up. During this process, they're unusable and vulnerable to attack. On the other hand, Soviet build radius is extended anytime you build a new structure, and the Soviets have access to a unique structure in the Crusher Crane, which lets you build multiple structures at the same time, repair vehicles, or scrap them for credits. Last but not least, the Empire of the Rising Sun has a very different way of constructing its bases by using special amphibious units called nanocores. These are basically portable structures used to construct all of your buildings wherever you want. Cores are expensive, defenseless, and vulnerable even while they build up. But on the other hand, the Empire isn't limited by a build radius at all. They can spread out quickly and expand faster than the other two factions. Now that you know how each faction builds its structures, let's review how to get support powers in Red Alert 3. Don't you worry about having to spend precious credits to research new support powers when you could just as soon be spending that cash on additional units. Instead, you accumulate a special currency called security points. You earn these over time. The more carnage that's happening at any given moment, the faster you'll rack them up. Simply staying alive is the slowest way to generate security points, though they're always accumulating. Blowing up a bunch of enemy units over time will net you more points, but they're generated the fastest when your own armies are being destroyed. Consider that one of the only perks to getting a beatdown in Red Alert 3. Once you've accumulated a point, you can cash it in for a new support power, also called a top secret protocol. Each faction has 3 unique ability trees and 15 support powers, so there's a lot of room for customization. You can balance out your army by picking powers from all 3 trees, or put all your effort into getting the top power in one branch. One other strategy to consider as you build up your forces is laying down some walls. Walls can prevent those pesky enemy engineers and spies from getting into your base, and they can protect your ore collectors. They can also channel enemy forces right where you want them to go. Building walls is simple. Place a wall piece from your support structure's build queue, then place another piece within a few grid spaces along the same line as the first one. Before you click, make sure the build preview is green and you're good to go. Now then, it's time to put all 3 factions under the microscope and delve into their unique units, strategies, and powers. First up are the Allies in Casual 1. First things first, you should know how the Allies tech up. In Red Alert 3, higher tech tiers unlock more powerful units, and the teching process is different for each faction. As you know, Allied construction yards and command hubs each provide a set amount of build radius. This radius is also linked to how the Allies tech up. Purchase the heightened clearance upgrade from a con yard or a command hub, and all of the unit creating structures within its radius will be teched up. Once you've done that, you can also purchase the max clearance upgrade to access the absolute strongest weapons in the field. Don't forget to tech up your expansion bases. Simply buying heightened clearance on your main construction yard won't help your structures across the map. Alright, now for some strategies. Early in the game, you'll have access to Peacekeepers. These guys are great to have on the front line because of their secondary ability, the Riot Shield. Throw up that shield by selecting your Peacekeepers and hitting the F key, or pressing the ability button in the corner of the screen. Now they'll be a bit slower and unable to attack, but the shield will protect them from enemy gunfire. Close the distance and throw off the shield to use their powerful but shorter range shotgun. Or leave their riot shields up to draw enemy fire while your secondary line attacks. While we're on the subject of special abilities, did you know that you can trigger them even with multiple unit types selected? In your selection group, one unit type will always be highlighted. Pressing the F key will trigger just that unit type's ability, and you can also press the Tab key to change the highlighted unit type within your selection. This makes managing multiple units' abilities much easier. An incredibly versatile early game vehicle for the Allies is the multi-gunner IFV, also known as the Infantry Fighting Vehicle. On its own, the IFV has a basic missile attack mostly effective against enemy aircraft. But it truly shines when you load different soldiers into it, as each type of infantry customizes the IFV's weapon in a unique way. Peacekeepers provide a massive anti-infantry shotgun, and Pack Dog's loudspeakers will stun nearby enemies, and a Javelin soldier will boost the IFV's anti-air power, to name a few. Oh, and sticking an engineer in an IFV allows it to repair all nearby vehicles, and even remove those pesky Soviet terror drones. So, an army of IFVs loaded with different infantry types and 1 or 2 engineers turns out to make for a well-balanced attack group early on. If you come up against enemy aircraft, be sure to evacuate your Peacekeepers or attack dogs so the IFV's default anti-air missiles can take care of them. While IFVs can transport infantry around, they're limited to moving on land and can only carry 1 other unit at a time. So if you need to transport a bunch of forces someplace, the Allies' Riptide ACV is likely the way to go. Riptides have a powerful torpedo attack when traveling by sea, and they've got a heavy anti-infantry machine gun for good measure. One of these can also carry 5 infantry units. A good strategy here is to put 5 Javelin soldiers into laser-guided mode, their special ability, and then transport them using the Riptide. When you come across an enemy structure, evacuate the Javelins and use the Riptide to deal with any enemy troops. In laser-guided mode, the Javelins will take longer to fire, but then discharge a ton of missiles quickly. This type of attack can destroy just about anything in a matter of seconds. Or if you aren't feeling like taking care of the enemy by land, maybe an air strategy is right for you. The first aircraft you can build as the Allies is the Vindicator, a tactical bomber. The Allies can get to these bombers faster than any other faction, so use this to your advantage. Build a few Vindicators and snipe the enemy's armored forces or ore collectors early on, before he can crank up his anti-air. Once you get heightened clearance, you can then build the Cryocopter. This unit has no weapons per se, but it's a huge asset for your army. Its primary attack, the Cryo Beam, will freeze enemy units or structures. The more Cryocopters focus in on a target, the faster it'll freeze. Then, any single shot fired on a frozen unit or structure will cause it to shatter. Not even the likes of the Soviet Apocalypse tank is safe from such a combat. There are also some cryo-related support powers that can freeze everything in a radius. The most advanced of these, Cryogeddon, has a significant range and lasts a while, so if the enemy is clustering all his ground forces together, he'd better watch out. The Cryocopter also has a slick special ability in the Shrink Ray. This thing makes units smaller and weaker, but also much faster. Use it on the enemy to gain the upper hand, and if you're feeling brave, you can even zap your own army to charge across the battlefield as quickly as possible. And to top it all off, shrunken units sound completely ridiculous.
Ready to roll.
If the fight is still raging on even after you've been using your cryocopters and support powers for a while, chances are you're in the late game. So purchase that max clearance upgrade and deploy some of those top tier units. From your armor facility, you can build the Allies' ever-dangerous Mirage tank. When it isn't moving, this tank disguises itself to look like part of the environment from the enemy's point of view. With any luck, he'll think he's gone nuts when all those trees start blasting his tanks to smithereens. Mirage tanks aren't disguised while moving and break out of the disguise for a second while firing, but the disguise is still great for setting up an ambush. Mirage tanks also have a useful special ability in the Gap Generator. This cloaks all nearby infantry and vehicles, letting you mass an army without tipping your hand to the enemy commander, although the Mirage tank can't fire or disguise itself while it's in this mode. Mirage tanks and ground forces are great against ground targets, but what if your opponent's base is out on the water? Cue the Allies' top-tier naval unit, the aircraft carrier. This long-range bombardment ship sends squadrons of attack drones to bomb enemy forces back to the Stone Age. And if you need a little extra help, the carrier's special ability, the Blackout Missile, will power down enemy ships and structures with an EMP attack. The Allies have other excellent naval combat options in the Assault Destroyer, which doubles as a damage-soaking tank on land, and the Hydrofoil, which can disable enemy weapons and tear through aircraft. So don't neglect a naval strategy when playing as the good guys. Once you've taken out his land and sea defenses, it's time to carpet bomb the enemy's base and finish this thing. That's where your max clearance aircraft comes in, the Century Bomber. It's both a bomber and a troop transport, so load up Tanya and some javelins before taking off. Use its special ability to paradrop the infantry, then bomb the living daylights out of your opponent's base. If you're fighting a Soviet player, be sure to target his super reactor first and enjoy the fireworks. But what if you are that Soviet player? Let's check out what the Soviets can do to fight back in Casual 2. First of all, the Soviets tech up differently than the Allies. It's the most straightforward way of all three factions. Just build a specific structure to build new types of units. For example, after building a reactor and an ore refinery, you can build a super reactor. The super reactor by itself is like a huge power plant, supplying many times the power of a normal power plant, but it also unlocks your second-tier tech. Then, after building a super reactor, you can build a battle lab, which unlocks your highest-tier units. As mentioned, the Soviets also have a unique structure in the Crusher Crane. Apart from the construction yard, it's the only structure in the game that grants you a second build queue, meaning the Soviets can build up a base quicker than the other two factions. The Crusher Crane also has other unique abilities. It can repair vehicles or salvage them for cash if you need an economy boost. Build this thing early on to repair or expand your economy. And if you're fighting a mirror match against another Soviet player, the Crusher Crane can be especially important since it'll let you repair units infected by terror drones. While building up your own economy, you can dismantle your opponents early in the game by using that notorious terror drone. Terror drones are great early in the game because of their speed and unique abilities. They're lightly armored robots that can dig into enemy vehicles, dealing damage over time and eventually destroying the vehicle completely. The only way your terror drone can be removed is if the vehicle is repaired. Its special ability is the Electrostasis Ray, which prevents the target vehicle from moving, though it can still attack. Use these abilities to infect your enemy's ore collectors and also pin them in place to prevent them from gathering resources or running to a repair structure. What's more, terror drones are amphibious, and they can kill most infantry in one shot. Another good early game tactic is to use the Soviet sickle to decimate infantry. The sickle's 3 anti-infantry machine guns just mow down enemy troops. You can also use the sickle's special ability, the flea jump, to land on and squish infantry or get onto higher ground. Elevation in Red Alert 3 can give you a huge advantage, as your opponent will not be able to see units that are on higher ground. Try using a couple of sickles to prevent your opponent from sending out lone engineers to capture neutral tech structures on the map. Of course, Soviet war bears are also great at hunting down enemy engineers running out in the open. Speaking of tech structures, try loading up a combat engineer, conscript, and 3 flak troopers into a bullfrog to go capture a neutral tech structure like an oil derrick or a hospital. Use the man cannon to shoot those infantry toward the structure, and before capturing it with your engineer, use his special ability to build a battle bunker for your remaining troops. The flak troopers will take care of any aircraft flying over, or you can evacuate them and use their magnetic mines against any vehicles. Meanwhile, your lone conscript will eliminate enemy engineers trying to grab your structures. Once you build a super reactor, you'll have access to the Hammer tank, the main battle tank of the Soviets. What makes this tank so cool is its special ability, the leech beam. Attack an enemy vehicle with the Hammer's main gun, but don't kill it. Then use the leech beam to finish it off. The beam will slowly kill the vehicle and steal its weapon. Then switch back to primary attack mode to take advantage of the additional firepower. The leech beam will also restore some of the Hammer tank's health, but it doesn't deal as much damage as the main gun. Now get your battle lab up and running, and then build some deadly V4 rocket launchers. These lethal launchers rain death down from above with long-range missiles, which are extremely effective against structures and stationary targets. Use some twin-blade helicopters to transport your V4s to elevated ground behind your enemy's base, and let the decimation begin. The twin blade can also use its weapons to help protect itself and its cargo while carrying either 5 infantry or a vehicle. The Soviets also have an awesome 1-2 combo using the magnetic satellite and orbital drop support powers. Use the magnetic satellite to pull enemy vehicles, including ore collectors, into space. The target of the satellite is a selectable object that can be slowly moved around while the power is active. Then follow up with orbital drop to rain down decommissioned satellites orbiting the Earth. The 3rd level version of this power drops an entire space station down on the battlefield. And if you used magnetic satellite beforehand, any vehicles that were sucked up into the sky will also come raining down as damaging debris. This is a great area of effect anti-surface attack. If you haven't already destroyed the opposing player using those powers, it's time to pile on the pain using the Soviets' late-game units, the Apocalypse tank, the Kirov airship, and the Dreadnought. These top-tier units dish out all kinds of destruction on land, in the air, or on the high seas. The Apocalypse tank makes its comeback with devastating dual cannons, which lay waste to all vehicles and structures in their path. And its special ability will grind up the competition. The magnetic harpoon uses a tractor beam to pull vehicles into its grinders, crushing them down into bite-sized bits. Meanwhile, the Kirov airship is the single deadliest aircraft in Red Alert 3. This heavily armored, slow-moving Zeppelin will do tremendous damage to ground units and structures as long as it can get close enough. Use its secondary ability to fire up the gastro burners and move across the map at top speeds, at the expense of some health. Finally, if you're going a naval route, the Soviets have the massive Dreadnought. Its 3 missile launchers can reduce any structure to rubble in no time. The missiles are slow and do not home in, so moving targets can be harder for it to deal with. Use the Dreadnought's special ability to make the missiles fire more rapidly, though this causes it to slowly take damage. If you're fighting against the Empire of the Rising Sun, make sure to use balanced battle groups, as many Imperial units can transform. Use hammer tanks and bullfrogs against the transforming mechanized units of Japan. The bullfrog can take out the flying Jet Tengu and Chopper VX, and if they transform, the hammer tanks will take out their counterparts, the Mecha Tengu and the Striker VX. Also, use your terror drones to disrupt Imperial attempts at expanding with its undefended nanocores. Now, I'll show you how to keep your cores humming along with a few more Empire of the Rising Sun strategies in Casual 3. The Empire has a different means of accessing higher tech units than the other 2 factions. While the Soviets tech up just by building the right structures, and the Allies have area tech access through conyards, the Empire techs up on a per-structure basis. Unit-producing structures are individually teched up by researching special upgrades available at each of the structures. The highest level upgrade first requires you to build a nanotech mainframe. This makes teching up cheaper initially, but it also demands a little more forethought when deciding which structures you want to build the strongest units. The quickest way to get ahead by playing as the Empire is to get your economy booming quickly. Rush those extra ore mines with refinery cores and set up additional ore refineries, remembering to keep enough generators around to avoid a low power state. Since the Empire has no build radius limit to them, send refinery cores out to distant nodes.
Don't go too overboard since the cores are weak and expensive. Should a refinery come under fire, your ore collector's special ability lets them fight back, so you always have some defense right away at your forward refineries. The collectors will dump out any ore they're carrying when the guns emerge, though the guns can repel an infantry attack pretty easily. So go on and grab a few remote refineries, but don't spend your credits so quickly that you run out for a main defense force back at your base. Here's another bold rush strategy. Rush a dojo core to an oil derrick, a neutral tech structure that provides a steady stream of income. Then wall in the instant dojo and derrick for protection. Build an engineer to capture the derrick for instant and continual funds. Crank out a few units for protection, and now you've got a forward infantry base that provides cash. The Empire has great early game infantry in the Imperial Warriors and the Tank Busters. These guys are relatively cheap and deal massive amounts of damage when used against the right types of opponents. The Imperial Warrior is an anti-infantry energy rifle-wielding soldier that can cut down enemy foot soldiers quite literally with his special ability, the Bonsai Charge. The warrior stows his rifle, unsheaths a sword, and gains a speed boost. In this faster mode, the Imperial Warrior is immune to getting stunned by Allied attack dogs or Soviet warbears, and can kill just about any infantry unit. The anti-vehicle units of the Empire are appropriately called Tank Busters, and even though they can't shoot at aircraft, they can hurt ground vehicles real bad. As their special ability, Tank Busters can burrow underground to dramatically increase their armor and prevent themselves from being crushed under enemy tank treads. However, they can't fire while underground. Another way to experience the power of the Tank Buster is the use of the Empire of the Rising Sun's Sleeper Ambush support power, which causes several of these dangerous dudes to pop up wherever needed. Start harassing your opponent, load up some engineers into the Empire's personnel carrier, the Sudden Transport. This transport does not have any guns to defend itself with, and is lightly armored, but it can disguise itself as any other vehicle. Try disguising it as an enemy vehicle, or mix it in with a Mecha Tengu force. Drive into the enemy's base and unload the engineers, which will pull the transport's disguise. Run around and capture your opponent's buildings before he even knows what's happening. If the Sudden Transport blows up, it explodes violently, causing damage to nearby forces. So plant it close to something you'd rather see destroyed. Now let's get into the Empire's famous transforming units. The Mecha Tengu is an early game vehicle which can transform into the Jet Tengu to get around quickly. In its ground form, it's really good against infantry, and in its airborne form, it can dispatch other air units. Fly a group of Jet Tengus over to harass ore collectors, switching them over to Mecha Tengus by hitting the F key, then switch back and run. The mid-game Striker VX unit is also good against ore collectors when in its transformed flight form, the Chopper VX. Together, the Mecha Tengu and Striker VX are a good combo, complementing each other's abilities when in the same form. When both units are in their ground form, the VX is an anti-air unit and the Tengu is an anti-surface unit. In flight form, they switch targets, so the VX becomes anti-surface and the Tengu goes anti-air. If you're facing a unit that is anti-air only, such as the Bullfrog, transform them both into ground units. While the VX won't be able to attack, at least it won't be vulnerable, and the Tengu can take out the Bullfrog. Careful though, because you can't transform constantly. There's a brief delay that prevents you from using the transform abilities all the time. Still not convinced the Empire of the Rising Sun is a lethal killing machine? Check out these late-game units, the King Oni, Wave Force Artillery, and the Shogun Battleship. Use these base killers to finish off your opponent. For starters, the King Oni is a giant robot with laser eyes. Use its eye blasters to take out vehicles and buildings. It can't attack air units, though, and unlike the APOC tank, it can't crush vehicles unless it's charging. Use the King Oni's Bull Rush, its special ability, to drop its shoulder and charge at a target. Anything in its path that's not utterly destroyed will be much worse for the wear. The Wave Force Artillery is a heavy bombardment unit with a gigantic charging laser. It's a slow-moving, slow-firing unit, but its charged-up artillery blast is devastating to anything it hits. You can fire the weapon prematurely with the Wave Force's special ability, but it'll dish out less damage based on the time it's had to charge. On the oceans, the Empire has the mighty Shogun Battleship to close the deal. It can devastate enemies from long range, though it's limited to attacking ground targets. While its cannons aren't effective in close range, it's not completely defenseless on the high seas. Use the ramming speed special ability to charge enemy ships, crushing them on impact. Now then, you should have a good mix of tactics to choose from when playing as or against any of the three factions. Of course, this was just the tip of the iceberg. Every unit on every side has a valuable role, so try them all and see what they can do for you in all sorts of different combinations. And if you want to keep getting better and better, carefully observe your opponent's tactics. Defeats can be even more valuable than victories in this respect. Even playing against the computer in skirmish mode can teach you a lot of neat tricks. Normally we'd be wrapping up Command School right about now, but not this time. No, for how could we finish talking about Red Alert 3 without taking a look at the killer commandos in the game? Don't go anywhere, it's time to break down the hard-hitting ladies of Red Alert 3 in Commando Mission. One of the most highly anticipated additions to the Soviet Army in RA3 is the sniper commando Natasha. Natasha is absolutely deadly against infantry and also rather stunning in the game's video sequences. She's played by MMA fighter Gina Carano, also known as Crush on American Gladiators. In-game, you can fire Natasha's sniper rifle into a line of troops and the shot will go straight through, killing everybody in a straight line. Against vehicles and structures, she can call in an airstrike. The airstrike takes a few seconds to fly in, so plan accordingly. As for her special ability, Natasha can target an enemy vehicle and take out its driver, leaving it empty. Move one of your infantry into the unmanned vehicle to claim it for the motherland. For the Allies, Special Agent Tanya Adams makes a bold comeback here. She's not exactly the same gal longtime Red Alert fans will remember, but you'll find she's every bit as big of a deal this time around. She wields twin pistols which can be used to eliminate any infantry that so much as look at her wrong. As for vehicles, Tanya runs up to them and sticks some explosive charges on them, blowing them to bits. And like any good commando, Tanya can also wipe out structures as soon as she gets to them. Be wary of anti-infantry air units though, as she has no way to counter enemy aircraft. Also, anything with a decent range, such as base defenses, can be deadly to Tanya since she's a close-ranged fighter. Luckily, if you're caught unaware by a pack of twin blades, you can use her special ability, the Time Belt, to get out of harm's way. Tanya will instantly snap back in time several seconds ago to her previous position and her previous health level. Finally, let's have a look at the psionic, or some would say psychotic, commando of the Empire, Yuriko Omega. She may look all cute and innocent at first glance, but don't let that fool you. After all, Yuriko is the product of a secret program that gave her psychic abilities, which she can use to amazingly destructive effect. She can pick up any enemy infantry unit and smash it into the ground, killing it. Or she can pick up the heaviest tank with her mind and shake it to pieces. It's just as easy for her to kill a Mirage tank as it is for her to kill a Peacekeeper. However, this makes her vulnerable to groups of units, which can swarm her. To counter a massed force, use her Psychokinetic Burst special ability to fling all enemy units next to her away, while killing most enemy infantry outright. Yuriko is also extremely effective against structures and can tear them apart with her psychic powers. Now that you have a general idea of how all the factions in Red Alert 3 operate and how to sick your commandos on your opponents, let's take a look at how all this comes into play during the campaign. And since this is a special episode of Command School, we'll let my distinguished colleague and Red Alert 3 designer Amir Rao take the reins in Campaign Trail.
All right, thanks, Greg. I'm Amir Rao, a designer on Red Alert 3, and we're about to hit the campaign trail here with New York City, the last mission of the Soviets' campaign. We're going to give you the dirt on this mission, all the different iterations it went through, some hints and tips, and show you the two new units that are introduced in this mission, which are the Terror Drone and the Tesla Tank. We're going to start up New York City right now and do our first objective, which is to eliminate Fort Bradley's prospectors. And we're going to do that with a very typical online strategy, which is using terror drones and getting them in to the enemy miners. All right, so we open up here with a shot of Fort Bradley. You'll notice the Mirage field is obscuring some enemies that we're probably going to have to fight later. And what's this? We've got allied units that are spitting out sparks. That's because they're infested with our best friends here, the terror drone. First thing I'm going to do is put them in a control group, and the best way to do this mission at the beginning is to do it fast, and I'll tell you why later. But for now, take them, move them really, really fast. You want to attack move just beyond whatever it is you want to kill, and just keep your group moving. All right, this is the first real challenge here, which is that you've got this Riptide right here, which can take your units apart. So you can switch one of your terror drones into their secondary mode, lock them down, and just at around that time, your co-commander's units will show up, and you can take out both the Riptide and the enemy harvesters. You'll notice that there are some dogs here. They pose no harm at all to your terror drones. You can just rip them apart. There actually used to be something like 14 dogs guarding Fort Bradley, but the producers thought it was so cruel that we had to sort of reel back on the amount of dogs that you were just endlessly slaughtering. All right, once that last miner is dead, you get Ackerman yelling at you at some stuff, and thus begins the invasion and a moment that a lot of our fans have been waiting for, which is finally getting their hands on the Tesla tank. All right, the Tesla tank is reserved for people who are of high ranks, and at this point in the campaign, after all you've gone through in the Soviet campaign, you are definitely worthy. So what I'm going to do is actually create 3 control groups here, one for my Tesla tanks, one for my my twin blades, and one for my Kirovs. So the faster you actually did the first part, the better off you are in this part, because they'll have less money in this section. You'll notice that Fort Bradley starts putting up defenses in preparation for your coming, and also that they have Mirage tanks that they're using with Mirage fuels to hide what's actually there. We're going to move the Kirovs, and I'm going to just waypoint mode them across all the barracks. Then I'm going to move up my Hinds to get them into a tactical position. So I keep calling them Hinds because over the course of development, unit names change. They were originally called the Hind. They started becoming the Twin Blade because of their new look with the double rotors. And a lot of that unit naming stuff was a result of our story producer, Michael Pedriana, our lead designer, Jason Torres, and of course, Greg Kasavin, who did most and led up a lot of the unit character stuff we did. The key thing here is you really need to take out anti-air fast, and that's where the Twin Blade comes in. Meanwhile, the Kirovs are going to just take out all the production facility and basically bring them down quickly. Your co-commander will take out any sort of outlying defenses. And once that Mirage tank goes down, you're going to sort of be privy to the whole set of things that they've created over here in Fort Bradley. As always, focus fire on the anti-air, because once the anti-air is gone, your Kirovs and your Twin Blades are basically going to be unstoppable. So if you ever have any problems at this part, you can always reverse move your tanks outside of Fort Bradley, use your air to pick off the targets tactically. Especially on hard difficulty, there's a lot more anti-air here. Any unit you see that's in their laser lock mode, any of those Javelin troopers, you have to take them down as soon as you can because they will waste a Kirov. So while my units are making quick work of Fort Bradley, it's probably worth noting some of the things we've done that are kind of in homage to Red Alert 2. So Red Alert 2 had its own New York City mission. It was the first mission of the Allied campaign where you started with Tanya. Fort Bradley was actually a structure in that mission that you helped take back online. So this doesn't have the exact geo of Fort Bradley, but we try to do things that were in the same spirit. When we look at the map this way, we're actually looking at Manhattan. This is southern Manhattan. You've got some elements of Battery Park. This is supposed to be Central Park up here, and in sort of the comic book blown out proportions of an RTS map, it kind of makes sense that this would be downtown. We've got our Wall Street wrong because this is the New York Stock Exchange. It should actually probably be somewhere over here, but this is where we had to put it because that's how it worked for gameplay. The other thing that's really cool about this New York City mission that came together was Nick Levere's audio direction. He basically he created this track for New York City. He contracted it with and worked on it with his composers. That was just so out of left field, but felt so perfect. It has like turntables and saxophones and this jazz vibe, which is something you wouldn't expect, but given sort of where you are in the story and what you're doing, which is just sort of terrorizing the Allies, it made complete sense. All right, we've destroyed Fort Bradley, hurrah. And now we're gonna get our moment, which is like a true homage to Red Alert 2 and kind of fits in with this idea that time travel has unintended consequences. And in this case, exactly what happened in Red Alert 2's beginning is happening right here. You got Tanya, the 4 dreadnoughts. She's destroying them all just as she was at the beginning of the Allied campaign. Here's our version of the Statue of Liberty, and instead of GIs hunkered down, we've got peacekeepers who put on their shield mode during that cutscene. And what we're trying to do here is tie the games together and just do something that's out of respect for a game that we all loved. So you're going to get your base now, and this is where, like I said with the first part, New York City's all about speed, about doing things as fast as you can and as efficiently as you can, just as you would in a multiplayer game. Okay, the first thing you want to do, because the Allies are going to come charging at you, is get your forces off of Manhattan. The best way to do that is to move your Kirovs over, take your Hinds, move them to the edge, and make them pick up your Tesla tanks. At the same time, you want to get ready for any air units you're going to face, and you will face a lot of Apollo fighters. So we put down the flak tower right at the edge here, which gives us a pretty good protection for the naval yard we'll place down next. Part of doing any last mission is to try and give a sense of desperation to the enemy side, to make it seem like they're throwing everything they have at you. And the way we do this a lot of times is through very early attack waves, whereas in previous missions we give you some time to build up, and New York City is no exception. You're going to start seeing enemy forces pretty quickly. It's going to be a paradrop, and that's where transporting our Tesla tanks is going to come in very handy. So the nice thing about the Allies is they always announce their attacks because they're a little bit more noble, especially in this mission. So you'll pretty much always know what to look for. A common mistake people made is try and defend your base with Kirovs. That always ends poorly because they do area of effect damage. So now, as each of the guys drops, our Tesla tanks make quick work of each of them, and they're all just completely annihilated. Now that we're sort of set up on our part of the island, we've got our unit producing structures out. It's time to tech up, which as the Soviets means super reactor. So the thing with a super reactor is normally you want to keep it as far away from your base as possible because the thing, when it goes nova, will absolutely destroy you. But I like to keep it well defended with a single sentry gun. That'll sort of stop any of the incoming paradrops, which you can see there's another one here too. So I am doing it a little bit risky here, but I didn't want to keep it close to the water because I know those water attacks are going to be pretty rough. So the other nice thing is, if you were paying attention in the first part, you'll notice that Manhattan now has all these ore nodes that we could be using. And also they have this New York Stock Exchange, which is a bonus objective to capture, but they've got it guarded by cryocopters, they've got spy IFVs, they've got normal IFVs, they've got tanks, so they've got all the anti-air and anti-ground that are going to make your life hard. Our goal is all these vacant ore mines over here, and then hopefully we can even build a production structure over here that's going to help us take the Stock Exchange, which, if you'll notice, the Stock Exchange gives money very rarely, but it's 100 credits every time. I really want the New York Stock Exchange, and I really don't feel like moving a whole bunch of units over here right now, so we're going to go up the orbital dump tree, take orbital dump, drop it right on top of all these tanks, and basically completely annihilate a lot of them, which just leaves the air, which are pretty easy to take out, as we mentioned before, if we build some of our own MiGs. Remember, we've got that crane, so we always have that second build queue. And what do we need our second build queue now for? For a barracks. Because we want to capture the New York Stock Exchange to get that $100 every couple seconds that it's giving. Our expansion operation is blooming. It's time to get some flak troopers out to take care of those cryocopters and a single combat engineer. Oh, looks like they did a drop right next to my expansion base. So this is bad news as far as news goes. But I'm going to go ahead and continue with my original intent here, which was to take out everything around the Stock Exchange, get my engineer, and that's going to give me and my co-commander a cash boost. I've lost my expansion in Fort Bradley, which isn't actually a devastating blow because the Stock Exchange is going to bring in a lot of money for me. As far as my naval force that I'm trying to assemble, I'm going to start with my anti-air. Then I'm going to go with my anti-ship stuff, which is the coolest sub. This is kind of an interesting Soviet mission because every sort of juicy thing the Soviets have comes out of the war factory, but because you're separated from your objective targets, you're going to have to rely on the Soviet air and the Soviet Navy. So if the Tesla tanks go down, you're never going to get them back. So always sort of keep these close and keep them safe to crack this really tough nut, which has got assault destroyers, hydrofoils, dolphins, all the finest things in the Allied Navy. You're going to see aircraft carriers later. All these defenses. You're going to need something really devastating, and in that case, it's the Soviet dreadnought. The thing about these last missions is they always try and spread your attention thin between doing a bonus objective that will help you get money, between expansion so that you can support multiple queues, between bonus objectives that seem really fun, like killing Tanya, and between the primary objective, destroying the Statue of Liberty. All right, we're teched up. It's time for dreadnoughts. We move our bullfrogs up so that everything's always covered. We've got twin blades there just in case they ever bring anything else, and we've got our Kirovs. The best way to use dreadnoughts is to waypoint attack, holding down the Alt key on all the things you want to kill. If anything comes out at you, get those subs up and start attacking them. You can't afford for the dreadnoughts to sort of not be attacking those high priority base defense structures. And if anything like the Apollo fighter starts giving you hell, that's where the bullfrogs come into play. Harder difficulties and harder missions are all about doing multiple things at once. So I'm waypointing, attacking my dreadnoughts. I'm shooting forward with my subs. Whenever their ultra torpedoes are ready, I just blind fire them towards the enemy, knowing that they're going to hit something like this construction yard, this assault destroyer, or this defense. Or occasionally they'll send out these little raid parties of the dog. And so the dog might seem like one of those frivolous things, like why would you send a dog? And that's why. Because if you're not careful with your units, a Kirov will drop a bomb on the dog and take out one of your own bullfrogs. It's one of those things that that players should like realize by now using a lot of the Soviet units, but we like to test their skills. So remember, if Ackerman's taunting you, that means something bad is about to happen. Because I designed the mission, I know exactly what that is, which is an attack from behind my base, which chronos in, and if you're not paying attention, that could be absolutely devastating. Remember, if you're gonna lose something, you can try and sell it. In that case, I was able to get $9 back, and that $9 could be the difference between victory and defeat. All right, back to this huge naval battle I was happening. We've got assault destroyers, we've got Kirovs that are locked down by hydrofoils. My own guys are on their cooldown for their ultra torpedoes. He's sending PT boats. He's got a ton of crap at the shoreline. So that is where we move in the Kirov. And ladies and gentlemen, orbital downpour. I'm going to use it right here. So here it looks like my Kirov isn't going to survive. So I'm going to try and get it as close to the naval yard as I can. When it blows up, hopefully it'll do some damage. And you can see between the orbital downpour and the Kirov, hopefully I'll take out a bunch of stuff that was there, and I actually managed to take out quite a bit of stuff. Never float PowerPoints, so I get my mass production and my magnetic satellite. The magnetic satellite is going to come into use almost immediately, as I'll use it to suck up any of these aircraft carriers that I can. Those Athena cannons at the shore will really tear your subs up, so try and stay at max range from them, and never, ever, ever, ever stop building. All right, most of their production structures are down, and once you own the seas in this mission, you're pretty close to victory. So once our forces are built, our targets are the defenses. You really want to make sure you take out all the IF defenses that are there, and then the production structures that are inside, so they really can't keep rebuilding their stuff. They've got a really strong economy because of the ore nodes behind there, but it's also pretty well protected by so many defenses that it's usually not worth it to go straight for their economy in this particular mission. So cutting their power is always a good idea, and in fact, it's going to be one of the first things I do as part of my siege. I'm going to need to fire a power into here, and that means I'm going to need line of sight. That's where getting just any air unit can help. I know my co-commander has air units, so I'm going to tell him to take position near the power plants. This will reveal some line of sight for me as he moves a hind in, which is perfect for me to use an orbital downpour all over their power plants. Basically what we're doing here now is we're about to have just a big dreadnought festival or carnival, if you will, of destruction. All right, so here we have a pretty good straight line on the Statue of Liberty. He's got almost nothing left to defend, and that's where we go ahead and we'll start bombarding the Statue of Liberty. We want to get our Tesla tanks in on the action too because they're pretty devastating. So we'll go ahead and create a twin blade or two to transport them. So we've got our Tesla tank on the island, which is going to be fun indeed. Because if anything ever comes after me, I should be pretty prepared. We're bombarding the Statue of Liberty in true Soviet style, which is to use dreadnoughts from far away, and we're moving a Tesla tank up, which is also going to help us make quick work. And on top of that, we're going to buy some top secret protocols. In this particular case, the Desolator airstrike. We'll pull down the Desolator airstrike. We'll rain orbital refuse down. We'll make sure our poor dreadnought doesn't get killed by a Soul Chieftain tank. And look, we've got an irradiated, bombarded Statue of Liberty in sort of classic and true Soviet style. We're going to end up taking this thing down in a way that the Allies most definitely had coming. Like I said, this is New York City. It's sort of a riff on the original RA2 mission, except for told from the other side, which is the Soviet side. Remember a couple things that will keep you alive in all these late game missions. Build a crusher crane as the Soviets. It'll help prepare your units. Use the secondary abilities of all your units, especially that Akula Ultra Torpedo, and you can blind fire it into the fog, and you can start taking down all that Allied stuff from a good, safe distance, even before you get dreadnoughts. And then once you have dreadnoughts, it's bullfrogs all around to keep those guys alive. So I'm Amir Rao with the campaign trail. Back to you, Greg.
Thanks, Amir. And with that, you should be in good shape to start tearing it up in Red Alert 3. So go on and try playing as all three factions and make good use of those special abilities. Break out the commandos and use their awesome powers to eliminate computer and human opponents alike. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoy the game. If you need a break, check out more episodes of Command School at commandandconquer.com. Dev tested, player approved. For Command & Conquer TV, I'm Greg Kasavin.
The empire of the rising sun has risen. The Western barbarians will bow before us. The empire is balanced in body, mind, and determination. When we strike, you will fall, just like this fool. Who is this fool? Where is this fool?
Hi, I'm Jenny McCarthy on set of Command and Conquer Red Alert 3. You're watching
You're watching what?
Battlecast Primetime. Well, that doesn't roll off my tongue.
Hi, I'm George Takei, and you're watching Battlecast. Battlecast.
Good luck saying no to this. None of you have the guts to do what needs to be done, so I'm going to wipe out those.
Are you happy as you can be? 'Cause I am like a buzzing bee. I'm a little bee. I can sting you.
Okay, words. But my mother was a good Charleston dancer, and I thought that looked so funny, you know, all this. And particularly my mother in her 40s and 50s doing this.
Red Alert, number 3. Oh, sorry.
Battle Bearers?
Yeah.
Bearers, B-E-A-R.
Yep. Battle Bears.
Pardon?
Battle Bears?
Thank you. Battle Bears.
Battle Bear. What is it? Is it like a new form of chewy snack?
Battle Bears.
Am I excited about them? Do I want to eat them?
Man can?
Man cannon.
Oh, man. Man cannon.
Man cannon. Really? Let's try that again.
Conquer is like a really weird word. It's like fork. Okay, Eye of the Tiger.
Again.
Oh, I'm saying it? Oh, I'm saying I thought I was giving the Eye of the Tiger.
And you were, and I got that.
Do you guys get the Eye of the Tiger? I was like envisioning tigers.
No, absolutely.
On Red Alert, Conquer and Command something?
Okay. I'm sorry, it's like cracking me up right now.
I think my husband at the time would have really enjoyed it because all he got while he was playing was me screaming in his ear, "Just find a weapon!"
Once it is fully powered, its armaments.
All right, here we go. Factor 1.
Blah.
All
right. Perfect. Thank you, Jenny. Oh, yes. Fantastic.
In Mother Russia. Okay, I'm a Russian.
Get rid of the second Soviet in the script.
Yeah, she can.
There you go.
Those boys need to learn how to fight more like me.
This is Randy Couture on the set of Command and Conquer 3. This is Randy Couture on the set of Red Alert. This is Randy Couture on... Let's see how many different ways we can say that.
We're arm wrestling?
What do you say here? On the mark, get set, go.
Everyone wanted to take a shot at Randy.
Is that all you got?
Oh, come on, go!
Yeah, thanks.
We can get her! You cheats! Wow! Cheats.
It goes on and on. You started me. You didn't know where the stop button was.
The last thing we need to